going on, everybody? I'm gonna be honest with you. I got a review for you, and it's for Mortal Kombat, the newest movie that just came out. And I've recorded this like 4 times, and each time I keep messing it up. And I think this might be the final take, hopefully. I know this is gonna be a little late. I know it came out last Friday, and everybody's already fucking seen it, and everybody's already talking about it, and everybody's got their opinion on it right now. But you haven't heard my opinion. And my opinion is one of a big Mortal Kombat fan. I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan. I play every single game. I was born in 95. The first one I played was, unfortunately, MK4 on 64. I think I played MK3, but it had less characters in it, so it was a little But I've played them all. I love doing fatalities. I love blood and gore. I love M-rated games. I love R-rated movies. This is perfect. Now, I have a little list here. I wrote some stuff down just to kind of, bullet points for myself so I can remember some stuff about the movie. I put a G for good, a B for bad, and then a GB for good and bad. I'm going to be completely fucking honest. I think this movie's awful. It's not great. If you're going into this movie expecting to see, like, fucking Da Vinci's art, it's a piece of shit. I'm going to start with the good, though. I'm going to try not to be too negative on this movie. I'm very anal about certain movies and the way certain things go in movies. I've said it before. I prefer a good story over a lot of action if I have to. I prefer good action over a really bad story. You know what I mean? Like, it's one or the other for me. If you can do both, awesome. I'm going to start with the good, though. There's not a lot, and I'm sorry for that. Just started off with, I thought they did a really good job at the lead up to this movie. I thought they did a really good job at advertising it to old fans and new fans. They did a lot of nostalgic things in the previews and everything like that, and that was really cool. It definitely drew me in. It got me overhyped for this movie a little bit. They did a really good job at that, though. I thought they did a good job of drawing us in and getting us in the theater to see this movie. It is worth theater quality, in my opinion. It is, just because it's if Mortal Kombat means something to you, then yeah, you should probably go see this in theaters if you can. Other than that, it's on HBO. It's only going to be on HBO, though, for a month. I think it's off of HBO like May 30th, I believe, and then you're kind of stuck going to theaters and waiting for a DVD copy. But with it being owned by WB and HBO, they have a contract and everything, so most likely it'll be on HBO by the end of its runtime in theaters. So that's pretty cool for people who own HBO. So I'm just going to go down this list here, and hopefully I don't get too off track. I'm going to try and edit this a little bit. This is a little late it's kind of a late review. I understand that. So I think there's a lot of newer fans now and a lot of kids that are now becoming familiar with it because of this movie. It was kind of how I was when the 90s movies were out, and I had to endure those, unfortunately. When I was a kid, they were awesome. As an adult, they're fucking horrible. And I think that's how this movie's going to be for a lot of kids. I think it's going to be really cool for kids. And then, assuming that you allow your kid to watch R-rated movies like a bad parent you are, it's going to be one of those movies where it's cool for a kid. It's awful when it comes to an adult. I'll go into that in a little bit. The opening scene is fantastic. I don't know if a lot of you saw this opening scene. They had like a 7-minute opening scene on YouTube that they gave to everybody just in case. I did not watch that. I saw it in theaters first. I didn't see any spoilers or anything like that. That whole scene is really good. It's the tension that you feel. You could feel the audience is like, kind of like, when's the blood and gore gonna start? And it does start up pretty well in that scene. That scene sets the tone for the movie, but unfortunately the rest of the movie doesn't match that tone whatsoever. It's a very confusing way of how they did this, and that's another part of the pacing that I had a problem with in this movie. Another great thing about this movie is a singular character. There were a few good characters, but one singular character made this movie better than everything else in this movie, and it was Kano. I forget what the guy's name is. He is a great actor. He played Kano very well, and what's crazy is when you can play a character that I don't really care for normally, and you can play him to the point where I think he's the best character in the movie, I think he did something right. I think he put a lot of passion into it. I also think that the girl who played Sonya did a really good job, even though her writing was awful. I think the guy who played I do think the guy who played Cole Young is a good actor. I think that the movie was a little too focused on him, and I thought it was a little boring because of that, but he's a good actor. He didn't do anything wrong, in my opinion. It was just bad writing when it came down to it. Sub-Zero was really good. They didn't give us a lot of background on him, unfortunately. They just kind of assume that you know that he's a bad guy off the bat. You know what I mean? They don't really give you a reason why his clan is the bad clan, technically. You know what I mean? Because his clan shows up and murders a bunch of people, like in Scorpion's little like home or whatever. So it's like he's definitely the bad guy starting off. And throughout the movie, he is the bad guy as well. And it's a little weird. They don't give you any backstory on him or anything like that. But he's a good character. He's my favorite character in the whole series when it comes to the games. So like I was into him. A lot of people might say that he didn't have enough, but I thought he was all right. The guy who played him is definitely awesome. One thing I failed to mention is that this movie, if it takes off correctly, they're talking about 3 more movies, so a quadrilogy or whatever the fuck it's called. I think it's stupid to sit there and say shit like that because they already know this movie's going to sell really well. It's going to do really good, and it already is doing better than Kong vs. Godzilla, which came out a couple weeks before. I think HBO right now, I think the record right now is like they have like over 22 million views or something like that. I'm not too sure. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But I know Justice League is far ahead of it, but it's also been out a little longer, and you know it was a longer movie and more anticipated. I do think Mortal Kombat is doing good though, from what I can tell. So expect more movies out of this. Kano was awesome. He was the comic relief in this movie. He was what made the bad scenes fun, like good to endure at least. You know what I mean? It was possible to actually sit through those scenes and be like, okay, you know, he's cool. I mean, the only other thing they really did well in this movie, besides the comic relief, Kano, and a couple characters, and the opening scene, is the callbacks to old characters. So if you're a fan of like Reptile, if you're a fan of Baraka, if you're a fan of Shao Kahn, Nightwolf, they give you a little reference of those characters. It's unfortunate you don't see some of those characters in action, but it's cool that they gave a callback to some of the favorites. You know what I mean? I like that. I like that a lot. I like when they can do something like that. You know, they did a good job when it came to that. Speaking of Kano, actually, a lot of the characters also do their classic fatalities in the movie as well. A lot of them are a little underwhelming, but, you know, it's still cool to see them, I suppose. Like you got Kano ripping out a heart and, you know, looking at it, and that was cool. You got Jack smashing dude's head into pieces. That was cool. Other than that, it's so few and far between when it comes to that it's hard for me to even give it props for doing it. The way I wanted to structure this was I wanted to do good, then the long list of bad, and then do like a good bad and like kind of give like a, hey, this benefited me, but at the same time, it might not be that good in the future. And then I was going to end it off with a score and what I think they could do to make this better. I'm going to start with the bad now. Just bear with me here. What isn't bad about this movie? Story going into it, you're going to assume that it's terrible. It was. The writing was terrible. The pacing was boring. Just an example of why the pacing sucks is there's a part where Cole, Sonya, and Kano all like find Raiden and Liu Kang in like their temple that they're training in right now. They're hiding out from Outworld, which is the bad guys. The whole movie revolves around a tournament. That's what Mortal Kombat is. It's a tournament for it's good versus evil. It's just how it is. It's a brutal tournament. One of the worst things about this movie is there is no tournament. It's just all talk about a tournament, but there is no fucking tournament. It's super annoying. It's just a bunch of character development, and it's character development that not only do we already know that is better in the games, but it's also just awful development. It's development that doesn't matter for certain characters. Like, it's just like, I don't need it. You know, like there's certain moments where it's just like, why am I listening to this right now? And then Kano walks in and says something funny, and then everybody's laughing, and then suddenly you forget that the fucking movie's script is terrible. But with that being said, you know, I suppose it's hard to make a video game into a movie. But there are things about the old 90s movies I thought they did better, dialogue-wise. I know that sounds crazy. I thought they did better story-wise in the first one. At least the first movies had, like, fucking tournaments going on. Like, this movie didn't have shit. It was mostly just them training and finding their hidden, I don't remember what they call it. It's like called a Nachi or a hidden chi, pretty much. Movie revolves around like character. If you have a stamp, a Mortal Kombat stamp on you somewhere, like a birthmark, then you're a champion and you're gonna fight in Mortal Kombat. Which is, you know, it's just by cat. It's just stupid. It's not necessary when we already have the source material, you know, there. You know, like you can just copy what the games did and go from there, and people would love it. You know what I mean? So that annoyed me. They did a really bad job at bringing this new character into light. They focused on him. He was the main character. Cole Young was the main character in this movie. And that's why I said I don't really blame the guy who plays him, because he was put in a really weird position where he suddenly was like the main character of like a series that people only want to see certain characters. So he's a new character, and spoiler alert, he finds his hidden power, and if you want to cut it out now, go ahead. His hidden power is he's good at getting his ass beat, pretty much. Like, he's good at taking a beating, and it's stupid. It's really dumb because the movie kind of opens up with him like in a cage fight and like getting his ass beat for like $200 a pop. It's just stupid. It was unnecessary. I didn't need his backstory whatsoever. You know, it's one thing to like introduce a character. I love when they introduce characters. MKX, they introduced Kodokan. Loved him. They even do a throwback to Kodokan in this movie, which is kind of cool. Sorry, spoil it, but they did a terrible job at introducing him. They focused too much on him and his family. And I know deep down that he's going to be the main character throughout the rest. He's going to be the focus. And imagine this movie imagine you're Cole Young and you're playing like, if you're a big Mortal Kombat fan, you're playing the story mode. And you're playing as Deception. I think it was the one where you could free roam, or Armageddon was the one you could free roam. Imagine being that stale character that runs around the map, and then you're just like randomly talking to like cool, iconic characters throughout the game. But you don't get to be them. You don't get to focus on them. You're just playing as the shit character that you're building up to fight those characters. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. I just want to see Scorpion and Sub-Zero fight. That was what I jumped into this for. And that's another bad thing. There's barely a fight. They fight at the end, and it's interrupted by Cole. They literally do a tag team against Sub-Zero because they're such bitches. They have to literally fight Sub-Zero tag teaming. Scorpion and Cole Young's tag team Sub-Zero. And it's stupid because Scorpion's whole goal is to kill Sub-Zero, and that's his revenge story. Like, he wants to kill Sub-Zero for what he's done, and it defeats the revenge story of it all. While I'm off topic a little bit, speaking of Scorpion, he's barely in this movie. He's a huge fan favorite, and he's barely in this movie. It's like they teased him in the trailer, and he's barely in the movie. Like, the scenes you see in the trailer are the only scenes he's in, and that is awful. It's awful. It's terrible. You don't do that. He's the main character. You know what I mean? He's the icon character. Liu Kang, the characters I thought that were terrible. Liu Kang was terrible. Raiden was terrible. I thought Kung Lao was meh. I thought the guy playing him was a little weird. The majority of the characters are underachievers. Like, they're all very underachieving, and they're all very boring. Melina's in this. I like Melina a lot, and she barely gets screen time. She barely gets moments. You know, it's bad. Altogether, the pacing is bad. What I was saying about pacing, though, is there's a part where they show up to the temple, and, you know, Raiden and Liu Kang and Kung Lao are there, and they're like, your training begins now. And, like, you'd think like they'd start a little montage of them, like, learning and, like, training. But as soon as they're starting to train and the momentum kicks in the movie, Shang Tsung and his goons show up to the temple, and literally are like, all right, we're going to kill everybody now. And Raiden's like, the whole movie, Raiden's saying, every single time you see Raiden, he's like, I cannot intervene in Earthrealm and Outworld's fight. But then as soon as Shang Tsung shows up, he puts a big fucking blue barrier around the temple to stop them from coming in. It's just a really lame way of like preventing a fight from happening. It's not good writing. And it all relates to bad writing, and that's what pacing is. It's writing, and it's all bad in this movie. Aside from like a couple characters that have good dialogue here and there, but like other than that, it's barely anything. It's just one scene there's talking, and then the next scene it's a fight breaks out, and it's a very PG like choreography style fight where it's just like them like blocking each other the whole time, and then it's interrupted, and it's just bad pacing. And I know I've said that like 100 times, but it's just bad pacing, and I cannot stand bad pacing in a movie. Especially a movie like this, a movie that I've been waiting for. Like I said, if you're going into this thinking it's going to be like the best video game movie ever, just go watch Sonic or something, because that was way better than this. It didn't do anything new besides Cole Young. That was the only thing it did new, and whatever the story is they're trying to do, it's not really, doesn't work. Really, the whole story revolves around them leading up to the 10th Mortal Kombat tournament, which is stupid because wouldn't you think they'd show us a montage or like at least some clips from the old tournaments to give us like an insight of what the tournament is? They're saving it for the sequel, and that's annoying to me. Mainly because like the backstory of this movie, like they were saying that like this movie's gonna break the barrier of like R ratings and stuff like that for like action movies like this. It didn't do anything like that, and that sucks because being somebody who grew up with Mortal Kombat back in the day, like they had to make the M rating for this shit. You know what I mean? It was so new to people, seeing people's heads getting ripped off and shit like that in like pixelated 2D, that they had to make up a rating for this. Just like GTA, how like GTA's fucked up, and like they had to come up with a rating to like properly rate those games so kids would avoid it. They didn't do any of that in this movie, though. They didn't break up. They didn't push an envelope whatsoever. They just did what's easy, it felt like. And that's annoying as fuck, especially when they're hyping it up and telling people, this is going to push it. You know, we're pushing it. This could be unrated right now and not hit theaters. No, it feels like a lot of stuff is cut in this movie, too. Like, it feels like there's, like, chunks of it that are just missing and, like, just poor pacing. It kind of reminds me of, like, the original Justice League cut, where it's just like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, what did they just, like, spit on this and shine it off and say, oh, this is it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it doesn't work. Fuck. Something I thought of after I saw the movie. If you've ever seen the movie Ninja Assassin, pretty cool fucking movie. Really good effects, really crazy ass movie with a lot of gore and blood. That movie did the blood effects and gore way better than this movie did. And that's horrible considering this is Mortal fucking Kombat. You know what I mean? Like, it's supposed to be gruesome. It's supposed to push the envelope. And, like, again, that relates to what I was saying a couple minutes ago about it. It's annoying. Max was a good character. I liked him a lot. The way they gave him his arms, his metal arms, was really stupid. They made it like a Pokemon Evolve type of thing, and it was just, it didn't work. You'll see. Stuff I wrote down that might spoil the movie, so I don't want to go too far into it. I guess I'll just head over to, like, so I don't keep negative Nellying this whole movie, I'm just going to go over to the stuff that they did that might have benefited us better if they did it a different way. And like I said, with the birthmark thing, like, the movie is just, like, too focused on that, like, having, like, a birthright and shit like that to be in Mortal Kombat. It wasn't necessary whatsoever. Like, Raiden, he can, like, teleport, he teleports them between Earth and, like, in between death and, like, you know, Earth. And he's like, we are all safe here. But it's like, first off, that negates him not being able to intervene in anything. And second off, like, why don't they all just train there if they can't be hurt there? You know what I mean? Like, if they can't be found by Shang Tsung there. It's a lot of plot holes. And, like, I'm trying to find things that are good and bad, but it's hard. I had a really good idea for this movie to help it out, to help them out with this. I think a really good idea, since they have like a thing going on with HBO as is. I think they should just make this into a TV show, like a Game of Thrones style show. I think they would benefit greatly from it. I think they could develop the characters way better. I think they could flesh out the entire story in 5 seasons way better than they could in 4 movies. I just don't think the movies are going to work. I really don't. I think they're trying really hard to make it work, but if the sequels are anything like this first movie, it's not going to be worth it. It's going to be cool to see, but it's not going to be worth it. It's going to be just like fanfare shit, and it's nothing new. It's nothing like that changes anything. You know what I mean? It's just going to be boring, I feel like, if they continue on with the movies like this. So I think if they made a show, it'd be really cool. I think it'd be awesome. I think we're all missing that show since Game of Thrones is over now. And I know the 8th season was terrible, but since that show ended, we all have like kind of a Sunday night void now, where like there's nothing to do on Sunday night now, it feels like. And a Mortal Kombat show would be fucking awesome. I think it'd be really cool. Imagine finishing up dinner and sitting down to a Mortal Kombat fucking episode. You know what I mean? Can you believe who they killed off last night in Mortal Kombat? That would be cool. What else is good, bad? That's really it. Honestly, that's really it. Altogether, I didn't really care for the movie at all. I appreciated that this movie is like good for like a bros night out. You know what I mean? If you're hanging out with your friends and you're like, let's go see a fucking movie, you know, something that we know, you know, go see Mortal Kombat. It's pretty chill. I wouldn't spend $10 on this again. Shit, I barely even. If this is the reason I have an HBO subscription, I would cancel my HBO subscription. I'm sorry, I'm harsh on it, but it just wasn't that good of a movie. More or less, it just kind of made me question what the fuck they're doing more than it did anything else. But I'm going to score it because this video is getting really high. They did a really good, it was a fun time when it comes to like just getting drunk and going to see it. I enjoyed the people I went with. I enjoyed hanging out with the people I went with. I enjoyed just like kind of going, to certain things. I'm going to give it a 5.5. Maybe a 6. It just really depends. It's somewhere in between there. Maybe a 6 or maybe a 5.7, something like that out of 10. I just did not think this movie was that great. I didn't think the pacing was that good. I didn't even think the one thing they had to do, which was just the gore, I didn't think that was that great. I thought it was just really underwhelming. And I think that best describes this movie. I think it's just an underwhelming attempt at something that's already been attempted. And I think they failed, but also succeeded at the same time. They succeeded in a way as in money. They succeeded as in advertising. They did a really good job at that. They failed at pacing the movie. They failed at making an actually good story out of a video game movie. They failed at making pretty much everything work properly in this movie. Like everything is just kind of jumbled and goofy, and it just doesn't work. Certain things just aren't as good as they could have been, and that again, that relates to that one word, and it's underwhelming. And that's unfortunate because this was a very overhyped movie, and I feel like there's a lot of jabronis out there that are just acting like this movie is like the next coming of Christ or something, and it's not. It's not that great at all. Again, Ninja Assassin, if you haven't checked that out, that's probably the best like ninja type gory movie that you're gonna get right now, and that came out in like 2009, I think, like way earlier in the years. So all in all, like I said, like a 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, somewhere around there. The new character's not really worth the wait at all. Don't hold your breath for him. Don't hold your breath for the story. Don't hold your breath for the gore. There's not much about this movie I loved. If you got a kid that likes Mortal Kombat, he's gonna love it. Other than that, not that great. So I do appreciate everybody watching this. I'm going to try and edit it down to a little less time. If I don't, it's just because I'm trying to hurry it up. I'm sorry I got a little jumbled sometimes. Other than that, thanks for waiting for this review. I hope I wasn't too harsh on your precious video game movie, but the games are better and the movies are still garbage. Thanks for watching.